After a breakup, Carol hitchhikes to find a place to rest for the night before making her way to her parents up north. As she gets dropped at a nearby hotel, the story takes a different turn when she becomes the next target of a psychopathic serial killer who butchers humans to consume their flesh, acting as a nocturnal animal hunting his prey. Hi folks, I'm R, your narrator. Welcome to Deadly Night by the Associates of Puppet Combo with an immersive story. If you have any game suggestions, make sure to follow me on Twitter and subreddit. Keep in mind that this video will have spoilers. With that said, let's begin. Carol, after finding out that her boyfriend had been cheating on her, ends up having an argument with him, which leads to the boyfriend kicking her out of his car, leaving her stranded on the side of the road in the middle of the night. Carol, having been relying on her boyfriend, is forced to go back to her parents who seem to be in another city. After finding a ride hitchhiking for a while, Carol meets Susan, who drops her at the nearest motel so she can rest the night before catching the earliest bus the day after to get to her parents.
I was in the car with him, and he stopped to fill up the tank. I took his wallet to go buy some stuff, and I found inside the picture of a naked woman. And he confessed to me that he was f***ing that bitch at work, and we argued, and the son of a bitch got in the car and left me lying there.
What a bastard. You know, many have their brains between their legs. That's why I don't want any boys. I just want them to have a good time, you know what I mean? Where are you going?
Heading north. I'm gonna stay at home with my parents for a while, but right now I just want a place to spend the night and get some rest.
As Carol enters the motel's reception, she encounters a creepy and inappropriate receptionist called Mr. Shiny, whom she tries desperately to avoid.
I'm sure you're great at wiggling that ass, right?
As she gets the keys to her room after a much-needed shower, Carol heads to bed, drifting away when she suddenly awakens to the smell of something burning, noticing that her room is engulfed in fire. After some time, one of the windows burst, allowing Carol to exit the room, which take her to a surreal narrow corridor created by walls of fire, leading her to a baby. She starts to recognize the crying baby named Dylan, which makes her wake up in a cold sweat, realizing it was nothing but a recurring nightmare. Carol doesn't explain much, but it seems that she lost the baby named Dylan, whose memory is haunting her, making her feel guilty. Exploring the room, Carol comes across two hidden cameras behind two mirrors, which reveals the motel owner isn't just an awkward guy with inappropriate words, but a creep who goes so far as recording female guests, an illegal activity that is considered a crime. Carol, furious about this, goes down to the reception room to confront Mr. Shiny, but she fails to find him. Instead, she makes the right decision to call the police and inform them about what happened. The police decides to send a patrol unit, which would take some time as the motel is located somewhere remote. As Carol breaks into Mr. Shiny's office, she discovers many more videotapes, all recorded when she plays one of the tapes already in the VCR when she sees herself being there. That's when Mr. Shiny appears, threatening Carol and making some derogatory remarks before locking her in the office.
I've already called the police, and they're on their way. You're gonna end up behind bars.
Oh, the police? I don't think so! Oh, you're going to stay locked in here until I decide what to do with you, bitch!
Carol uses her wits and gets out of the office through a small window, deciding to go back to her room and collect her backpack. As she does so, she sees Mr. Shiny being pinned to the bathroom wall, flapping like a fish out of water, being disemboweled when she screams in fear and plans to leave as fast as she can. As she goes down, she notices a van being turned on, following her, when she gets ran over by the van, with a masked man jumping at her, knocking her out cold, dragging her to the back of the van, taking her to his hideout. After some time, Carol wakes up finding herself tied in a basement of a rundown house, which she manages to get herself out of the restraints. She conveniently finds a working flashlight lying around as if intentionally placed for her to use in a twisted game of hide and seek. Or maybe that's the mysterious sense of humor of the game director. I guess we'll never know. As she takes the flashlight, lighting up her way, she notices the basement door to be heavily fortified and closed. She also comes across a fortified door of a well, which has a combination lock on, seemingly being her way out of here. After some more time, she hears footsteps approaching the basement door, which is followed by keys rattling, unlocking the door. Carol, in fear of being killed if caught, she hides in a nearby wardrobe when she notices the masked kidnapper looking around, looking for Carol, seemingly confused to where she might be. This of course revealed the masked kidnapper might have some mental issues, as he looks everywhere apart the only place that someone could hide in, the wardrobe. Carol, knowing full well the psychopathic individual would kill her, she treads lightly, looking for a way to escape. Sneaking around the house, Carol comes across the horrifying discovery of human flesh being chopped into pieces, butchered for consumption, making her realize if she's not careful, she could be the killer's next meal. One pile of the chopped flesh has the word mom written above it on the wall, which makes it seem that the killer could have butchered his own mother some time ago, but a part of the story which we will learn more about in the ending. Just as Carol explores the house to find a way to escape, she opens a door to find herself surrounded by walls of fire yet again, resembling the nightmare she had in the motel. At the end of the corridor, she sees baby Dylan once more, but this time being caught in fire, burning while crying in pain. Carol soon snaps out of the stream, coming across an old diary. As she hides in a safe place and quickly goes over it, it seems to be written by a child who was seemingly kidnapped by the killer. The child writes on how the killer became his new father, who fed him raw meat, seemingly being human flesh. On the 8th day, after the kid can't help but throw up his food, getting sick, the killer takes his stuff away and throws them down the well in the basement as a way to discipline him for not being thankful for being kidnapped and being force-fed human flesh. What an exemplary example of a father. As weeks and months pass, the child explains getting used to the raw meat and enjoying the new house, not understanding why he thought the house smelled bad. The killer gets comfortable enough with the child that he takes him out hunting, explaining to him the victims need to be alive until they're ready to be eaten, as that way their flesh would stay fresh. This complements the child drawings and toys found in one of the rooms, depicting how a child must have been here. Despite the diary being found, there's no sign of a child anywhere, which might indicate the killer had a fallout with the child, ending his life and transforming him into the chopped flesh for his consumption. Finding out of the note, the child has written that the code to the padlock for the well in the basement can be found in the game on the game console, which makes Carol play the game and find the combination. As Carol jumps down the well, she ends up injuring herself, with the killer dragging her to his slaughterhouse, where he places her on a butcher's table to get her ready for being chopped into pieces. That's when the scene changes to a memory where Carol is in front of a burning house. As Carol finds a way in, she hears the agonizing cries of a baby, seemingly being Dylan, making Carol rush to find him. That's when she comes across her mother, who is taking her last breaths, dying slowly while burning, who blames the fire on Carol, saying that she did all of this. The mother continues on a mysterious monologue on how Carol kept crying when specific people came to her room instead of keeping her mouth shut, berating her and making her like a useless piece of meat. The perspective soon changes to Suzanne, the woman who gave Carol a ride in the very beginning of the story, which shows her outside of her stationary car, depicting that it got a flat. As Suzanne goes exploring to find help to fix her car, she comes across the killer's house, having no idea what hell she's about to put herself through. As Susan approaches the house, she hears the cries and screams of a woman coming from a barricaded well, which seems to belong to no other than Carol. Susan, not knowing who that might be, she tries to find a way to open the barricades. As she manages to do just that, she grabs a ladder and goes down the well to find the source of the sound. After some time exploring the maze-like tunnels riddled with rats, Susan finally comes across an unconscious body of Carol, who's lying on a butcher's table, with pieces of human body hanging all around her. The scene changes once more, with the childhood of Carol being shown. She's accompanied by her child brother Dylan, who's drawing on the wall, resembling the drawings found in the killer's house. This shows how Dylan, the baby that Carol was seeing being burned in her nightmares, was no other than her brother, someone whom she seemingly lost. That's when the mother from the other side of the door shouts at Carol, saying how two men are coming to visit her, ordering her to shut her mouth this time and not cry, as this would deter them from having their way with her.
I don't want to hear your crying and screaming. We need the money.
I don't care. I don't want to do it.
I don't give a shit. want. Get ready. They're coming.
This explains why the mother berated Carol in a flashback when the house was burning, showing how the mother took advantage of her own child daughter, getting money from her. Carol then asks Dylan to leave her room, expanding on how she feels about this whole ordeal.
No, they're not my friends. Mom makes me play games with them that I don't like. They hurt me.
This leads to Carol having enough and burning the house down in order to kill the monstrous mother, which accidentally causes the brother to fall victim to the fire as well, who sustains severe burns, impairing Dylan's brain as well. Hence why Carol was consumed by guilt and recurring nightmares of how she was the culprit of Dylan suffering from burns and brain damage. This leads to Carol and Dylan being taken by social services, given to someone called Mr. Miller, who will supposedly take good care of them. That's when a close-up on Dylan's face reveals how he wears the same exact face prosthetic mask as the killer, with his brain damage causing him to possibly forget his sister and become the psychopathic killer that he became. What are the odds that Carol is his next victim, if not intentionally targeted by him? The flashbacks come to an end, bringing the story to the current time with Susan waking Carol up in the butcher's room, getting caught up on what happened to her. Carol explains how she was ran over by the killer's van after she discovered the creepy motel's owner being killed, which brought her here after trying to escape the psychopathic butcher. Subsequently, both Susan and Carol go up the ladder Susan used, getting into the killer's van using the keys Carol found, but unlucky for them, the van doesn't start. The perspective soon changes yet again to the dispatch officer, the 911 call Carol made when she discovered she's being filmed by the creepy motel owner. As the cop stops at a local petrol station to refuel, he comes across corpses who were killed in a grisly manner. Inspecting the corpses, he suspects that the killer must be very strong to be able to do such thing. Looking around some more, he finds a wallet belonging to no other than Carol, which makes the cop investigate who this person might be. As the police officer's radio is under repair and not functional, he becomes left with no other choice than to go to the motel he got a report from to use the telephone and report back to his station. As the officer arrives at the motel, he finds the corpse of Mr. Shiny still penned in the bathroom, which makes him quickly look for the wallet owner, Carol, in order to save her before it's too late. As he drives away from the motel slowly, he comes across Susan's car, which was pulled over not too far away from the killer's house. As he gets off his car to investigate, he comes across the maze-like field leading to the house when he gets ambushed by Dylan. After managing to narrowly evade Dylan and shoot him dead, he confirms the killer must be him, as he is covered in blood, was hostile, and wielded a deadly weapon, going hand in hand with his large physique, making him capable of killing so many people easily, even able to lift them and pin them to walls. The police officer soon finds Susan and Carol, guiding them back to his car, taking them to safety. After some time, Carol is seen being in the hospital treated for her injuries, while both Susan and the cop are there accompanying her. The news on the TV soon reports on the incident on how remains of over 20 victims were found in the house, with the butcher not being found despite being shot at multiple times. This ends the story, which could potentially get a sequel, expanding on the story and unexplained bits of the plot. So far, however, it was shown that Dylan was Carol's brother, who ended up losing their mother after Carol set the house on fire to rid herself of the monstrous mother. This unfortunately causes the brother to get caught in between, sustaining severe facial burns, injuring his brain, making him become mentally impaired. As both Carol and Dylan are given to care of Mr. Miller, it seems something happens there that separates them from each other. According to the diary and notes found in the house, a child was taken to the house who had trouble writing and seemed to be having trouble understanding what's going on. This child explained how his mother and father used to lock him up, with a new man taking care of him, at least letting him be free. Despite all that, the new father figure showed this child how to hunt humans seemingly, keeping them alive to keep their flesh fresh. This child slowly gets accustomed to this man's ways, wanting desperately to grow up and become stronger. There's no sign of a child in the house, which makes it seem as if the child grew up and became the killer dwelling in this house, especially as it's been repeatedly mentioned how strong the killer was, both by the cop and the news reporter. It hints out to be the grown-up child who always wanted to be strong. Also in the flashback of Carol when she was a child, Dylan is shown drawing on the wall resembling the drawings found in the killer's house. With all that shown, it seems as if somehow Dylan ended up with a psychopathic person, maybe Mr. Miller, who taught him to become a killer and a hunter, who eventually turns into the butcher who kidnapped Carol. With his mind being impaired, he finds it difficult to understand between good or bad, not possessing the ability of critical thinking, acting on instinct to just feed himself, not knowing any better. Therefore, Carol in fact was indirectly the reason behind Dylan becoming the murderer, who ended up capturing her in a turn of events many years later. It's very possible a sequel is in the making, expanding on the story. When it comes out, I will probably cover it to get the whole scope of the plot. Anyway, it's been your host Star. Thank you folks for being here, and as always, till the next time, have a fantastic day.